Okay, our meeting is now being recorded. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Parks and Rec Commission meeting for the Town of Fairfield, Connecticut, being held on Wednesday, May 20th, 2020 at 7 p.m. The meeting is now in order. Before we start on our business, I just want to go through the process of how we're going to be running the meeting this evening, because there's going to be times where I imagine we're going to be making motions. And to do that, it is going to be important that every time you do unmute and offer any comments, that you identify yourself by first name to make it easier for Joe and to track who is speaking. That's obviously going to be very, very important when it comes time to make a motion and second, and then further on with discussion. When it does come time to vote, what we'll do is after the motion is before the commission, I will do a roll call and ask everyone to vote by saying yay, nay, or you can abstain. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, to start the meeting, I'd like to act on the minutes from our last meeting, which was February 19th, 2020. I am assuming that everyone has received an advance copy of the minutes. And if there are any corrections, please make those corrections known now. Okay, hearing no corrections to the minutes, they are approved as distributed. Thank you. Next up is ratification of action taken between meetings. Because we haven't obviously met since February, the department had to make a number of decisions since our last meeting on issues that would have normally come before the commission for consideration. There is a list of 5 items that Anthony's department approved while we were not in session. Are there any questions on any of these? Okay, we're going to be quick tonight. If there are no questions, thank you. If there are no questions, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the slate as presented. From anyone?
This is Brian. I'll make the motion to approve the slate.
Thank you, Brian.
This is Jamie. I'll second.
Second, Jamie. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the slate of actions taken since our last meeting? Okay. I'll now call the vote. You guys can all unmute your phones. Brian, your vote?
Yay. Yeah.
Mary's not on, Jessica. David, your vote? I'm sorry? That doesn't sound like David. David, thank you. Chris McCoy, your vote? Chris? We'll skip. Bridget, your vote?
Yay.
Yay. And then Jamie, your vote?
Yay.
Yay. Okay.
Scott?
Yes?
Scott, this is Mary Von Conta. Can you hear me?
We hear you fine, Mary. How are you tonight?
I've been taking all this time to use 5 phones to try and get in here. All right. So I don't know what you're voting on, but I guess it's too late.
It's okay. We're in good shape right now.
Okay.
Okay. So we have everyone who voted except for Chris. You never chimed in. You get another shot here.
Well, actually, I'm Jessica. I'm here.
Oh, and Jessica's here too. Hello, Jessica.
Yep. Hi.
Hello.
I vote yay. Hey.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we have Nero, Gerber, McBride, Benton in favor. There are none opposed, and I will abstain. The motion to approve actions, ratification of actions taken between meetings is now approved. Thank you for that. Moving along under new business, item 4, we have a number of South Benson Marina appeals. I believe we have 3 people present for tonight's meeting. Is Mr. Ciccarelli on the line, Mr. Rothman on the line, and Mr. Keel on the line?
Gentlemen, I think you got the directions on how to unmute yourselves.
I believe I'm unmuted. This
Okay.
is Michael Rossman. I'm here.
Okay. We're going to start with Mr. Ciccarelli, if you're on.
Yeah, guys, thank you. This is Sue and Chris Ciccarelli.
If you would like to state the reason for your appeal for missing your slip deadline, now is the time.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, yeah, we appreciate the opportunity for the appeal. The Marina is a great facility. We've enjoyed it for about 10 years with our slip. We've been residents for, over 20 years now. We had some technical / email issues as well as home phone issues, kind of combined with some family medical challenges. And frankly, we just didn't get the notifications, although, again, the Marina in town did send them out. So once we realized that we hadn't received or done our renewal, I think it was on February 27th, we reached out to Justin, and at that point, all we could do was kind of get, I guess, into the appeal process. So we're just hoping for some forgiveness and to allow us to continue to enjoy the facilities.
Okay. Before we ask for questions from the commission, is Justin on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, Justin. How are you?
Doing well, Scott. How are you doing?
Doing well. Just for everyone's benefit, can you just confirm that your applications went out to all current slip holders on December 18th? Then you posted renewal notices on the Marina news feed from 12/18/19 through 2/26/20. You then emailed a newsletter on January 10th. You did code red call on 1/22. You followed up with emails again on 2/3 and 2/12. Is that all accurate?
That's correct.
So, Mr. Ciccarelli, before we turn it over to the rest of the commissioners, just want to make sure we're on the same page. So you're saying you received none of these notifications?
We did not. Like I said, we had just some major spam issues in our email, and frankly, we just kind of changed over to a different address that we used for primary, and we did not notify the town of that move over. So it's definitely our responsibility. I mean, I know the town did what they were supposed to do. We just did not receive it on our end.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Jessica Gerber. And also, the code red call went out to the phone number, correct? Or the phone numbers that were on the applications?
Yeah, if you're asking, Chris, that you're correct. We don't have a home phone. So we've got this Optimum Services bundle, and we decided just not to reconnect the voice phone. So, everyone calls us on our cells. So we did not get the call on the home phone number and didn't update the town.
And I just have a question. So is either one of these numbers your cell phone number, 203-612-6511 or 203-605-0660?
The second number is my cell, but that I believe that was updated after the fact. The first number was a home number that we referenced. We don't have a working phone connected to it.
Okay, and the email address, the opt-online address that you have on your application?
Right, that's the chick SK at optonline.net. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the email that we really have had a challenge with, is due to spam. So.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission?
I have a question.
And this is?
Chris McCoy.
Okay, thanks. Again, I hate to do that, but given the number of people on the call,
it's understandable.
It makes it a lot easier for John.
Okay, so Mr. Ciccarelli, how many years have you had a boat slip at the Marina?
Yeah, I think it's been around 8 years. Prior to that, we trailered.
And have you ever filed an appeal in the past?
We have not, no.
So really, you were kind of just concerned up until the last minute?
Well, we again, I mean, not to the sob story, but we just had some life issues, some medical challenges within our family. I frankly think we just got a little bit preoccupied. But as soon as we realized that we did not, receive or respond to or complete our renewal, that's when I had reached out to Justin, and I think that was on February 27th. So
okay,
it was
I'm sorry
just
to hear that.
shortly
Thank
after.
You.
Yeah, it was just shortly after, I believe, the submission date ended.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Dave Weber, are you contesting the $250 late fee?
No. We understand that that's our fault, and we're fine paying that.
Okay, thank you.
This is Brian. Can I ask a question? Chris, how you doing? It's Brian. You're out.
Yeah, Brian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. I just want to go back to the numbers again, because the application that we have in front of us is the one that you submitted on the 27th. Is that correct?
That's the appeal, correct?
And that has the current that's the current 2020 application, and the two telephone numbers that I believe it was Jessica read off before, 612-6511. That's your home number.
That's the home number, but again, when I spoke to Justin, we had updated it with another number, which was my cell, and I believe Sue's cell. So that 612-6511 should not really be on that anymore.
Okay, but who completed this application? Is that completed by? Was this completed by you or by the town?
Brian, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. That I believe when I spoke to Justin, he made some updates so that we would get any further communications.
Yeah,
Justin,
Brian,
Scott,
can I speak? Yeah, so we send out applications based on the year prior's application. So based on the application that was due in 2019, that database is updated, and then we do a mail merge, so all the slip holders have a pre-filled out application. We ask them to confirm that all the information is correct and update it. So when Mr. Cigarelli brought in this application that was due for 2020, we crossed out the 612-6511 number and also changed the email.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, and the code red, Scott, again, a question, if I may, for Justin. The code red, would it have gone to both the number one phone, which is inoperable in this case, and the number two phone?
I believe so. My understanding, I sent the phone numbers to the chief of police, who forwarded on to Code Red, but I gave both sets of numbers from our database. Let me see if I can do a little research on the emails here, but my understanding was that it went to both.
Yeah, guys, if I may, there was never any reach out on the secondary number, which is an active number, and that's my cell number. There was never any notification sent to that 203-605-0660.
All right,
Mr.
thank you. I'm
done. Thank you, Brian. Mr. Ciccarelli, if I may ask, how did you come to realize that you had missed the deadline?
Hey, listen, I think it was just the time of year. I think obviously, we've been doing it for long enough, and we just said, you know what, I think we may have missed, getting our renewal, and that's what prompted me to call.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Would anyone like to take any action on this appeal?
Yes, this is Brian.
Okay.
Given what we're all going through right now, and given the history, as much as I hesitate to make any exceptions because of the effort that Justin and everyone goes through with notifications. In this case, the fact that they presented everything within a week of missing the deadline, and the fact that there are some documented issues with the phone and the email, I would make a motion to approve this appeal.
I'll second.
I would second.
Dave Weber.
So was that David with the second?
Yep.
Mary Von Conta seconding. Oh, well,
Okay.
both of us
Well,
second.
we have. Okay. Okay. The motion before the commission. Back to Brian, if you'd like to add anything to your comments made earlier. Okay.
No.
All right. I'd like to call for a vote now. Now, again, I'll go around by name. Brian.
Yay.
Mary.
Yay.
Jessica.
Yay.
David.
Yes.
Chris.
Yay.
Bridget.
Yay.
Jamie.
Yay.
And Caitlin is still not present. Is that correct? Okay. Not going to matter, but I'm going to vote against the appeal. The appeal is granted on a vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1. Your appeal is approved, Mr. Ciccarelli. Thank you for joining us this evening.
And I'd like to thank the commission. Thank you very much.
Are you in any way related to Nello Ciccarelli?
No, is he the individual that does the nativity scene? No, it's not.
Okay.
No relation.
Nice guy.
Anyway, thanks to the commission. Thank you all, and everyone stay safe.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Rothman on the line.
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
We do. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Would you like to...
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. If you'd like to state the nature of your appeal, we would appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. My name, as you may know, my name is Michael Rothman. Most people in town know me as Max. But I owned a business in town for many years. And last year, before somewhere in September, I actually sold the business. And unknowingly, when I sold the business, I included the email and phone number that was attached to the boat slip with that. And when I found out that when the coronavirus started going on, I figured the marina wasn't opening at all. And because those emails and phone numbers were attached to the boat slip, I didn't receive any of these notifications. I would have acted immediately. We've loved the slip for many years. It took us 10 years to get on it. I would never not sign up again. I did not receive any of the emails or the code reds because I don't own those emails or phone numbers any longer. So that's basically my appeal. Very, no pun intended, but I'm very much in a similar boat as Mr. Ciccarelli.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the commission?
Brian, I have a question.
We'll go Brian, and then I heard Mary, so we'll go Brian first and then Mary. Okay.
Mr. Rothman, thank you for joining us, making the appeal. You said you're in the same boat as, no pun intended again, as Ciccarelli, yet the Ciccarelli's appealed on the 27th of February, and your appeal was April 17th. How long have you been in the Marina?
You'd be correct in the date. I have been in the Marina about 8 years as well. And just to add a bit of an addendum to that as well, I moved to a new job in another state in New York. I happen to live in Fairfield as well still, and hold residence there. But I took a job in New York, so I have been very busy in the spring, and I figured, again, since I never got notification, I thought the Marina was going to be closed for the year. That was the reason why I wasn't getting notifications for the slip. So I figured, okay, if it's closed for the year, maybe there will be no there'll be no sign-in this year, and it'll just go to next year. Until a point around April 1st, when the weather started getting nice, I started to think, well, why have I not received any email notifications? And that's when I contacted Justin and found out that not only was I no longer on the slip, but I would have to make an appeal. So, yes, it is longer than Mr. Ciccarelli, but under certain circumstances, I really didn't even realize the Marina would be open this season.
Okay.
But I do take fault in the fact that I should have been more proactive in contacting the town. But, again, with the new job, I was kind of focused on doing the job and not really the boat slip. And then it occurred to me as the weather got nice that I really need to act on this. And that's when I got the bad news.
Okay. But the date for the application is always, it has been during those 8 years that you've been in Marina, mid-February. And the pandemic truly didn't hit in earnest till mid-March. So that, I don't know.
I do understand that. I think my point there would be that I'm not great with keeping a calendar, so I usually wait for the emails to come and then act upon them. It slipped, and I didn't even think twice about it because I used to get emails all the time from the town and phone calls, and even back in the day they were all mailed. All the applications were mailed, and I never received a mail notification. So my assumption, which was obviously incorrect, was that the Marina would not be open for the season. Yes, it should have been in February that I made this call, and I know I was late to the game, but that's where the lateness came from.
I have a question.
Okay, David.
This is Chris.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Mary, I'm sorry. Then we'll come back to you. I apologize for that.
Okay. Do you
want David to go?
Do you want me to go? I'll go after Chris, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rothman, quick. All right. So here's my question. You were on the wait list for 10 years, well aware of the fact that there was a wait list and there was a very high demand. In the previous 8 years, had you ever missed a deadline or filed an appeal?
Never, because I had that email. I was receiving those emails, so I acted upon them quickly and took the action. I clearly understand it's.
Yes, I get it. So in your opinion, as of mid-February, February 19th to be exact, you were under the assumption that the Marina was to be closed because of COVID. What led to that belief?
Because I had not received any emails
because you hadn't received emails, you would like to believe that the Marina was going to be closed?
Yes.
That was just your assumption?
It was. And again, a wrong assumption, but.
Okay. Even though at that point, no businesses had been closed, or there was not even a discussion of any businesses being closed at that point. Is that correct?
Well, mid-February there was talk about schools closing and certainly things like that. And again, I was in a new job in New York, and I understand that it is my fault for waiting as long as I did, but under the circumstances, because I had always received email notifications, even letters.
Yep.
If I had received any of these, I would have. And if you would, I don't have the records previously,
right.
but.
So again, knowing in the 8 previous years that mid-February was the deadline, why did you wait nearly 10 weeks to file an appeal?
I have to be honest. I never knew when that date was that it was due. I just knew that when the email came in, I acted on it. So it was kind of like that's my action to take. I never wrote on my calendar, hey, February, make sure you contact the slip to make sure everything's in order. I simply wait for the email, and I granted it's a long amount of time to wait 10 weeks, but again, as things started rolling on, and it wasn't that I didn't know in February, because I didn't know in February that's when the email comes, but now in March, so a month later, I still hadn't received an email or a phone call, so I assumed that the slips were going to be closed, as was as were the schools and other things. So it wasn't on the deadline that I missed. It's more like a month later that I realized, hey, what's going on here? What do I need to take action, I believe.
I get it. Life happens, but again, knowing that you were on the wait list for 10 years and how competitive the Marina is for slips, this is one of the things where, in my opinion, I'm not a boat owner, but if I were, it would be like April 15th with my taxes. I'd be aware every year.
Yeah, and again, I took a new job that has been very challenging, and I don't want to make an excuse for it, but things in my life have changed a lot since those last 8 years that I have been in town, and everybody's been getting their boats ready, and now all of a sudden, I'm taking a new job. I have a lot more responsibilities. It honestly slipped my mind until I started thinking about why are all these people getting their boats ready? The marina's not even open. I haven't checked websites. I hadn't got emails, and the code red obviously went to a phone number that doesn't exist. So it's clearly a fault of my own. I only state all this because we have loved the marina. It may not look like it because I wasn't proactive, but we've loved being there for so long. My kids grew up there, and water skiing off the boat, and they were crushed when I told them what was happening, and obviously it was my fault for not being more proactive. I understand that completely.
Thank you.
Mary?
Yeah. Mr. Rothman, where is 62 Louvain Street your home or your former business?
No, 62 Louvain is my current residence, yes.
Current residence. All right. It has been your residence ever since you had this slip?
It has.
It has. Okay.
And it has been since I've been on the waiting list as well.
Yeah.
And many years ago, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with it, but there was a letter sent out from the town saying your slip is due. These are the things you need to gather. And we used to run like that. Then a few years back, it was changed to email. And I must have inadvertently given my business email, not thinking I would sell my business. Sold the business, never got the emails or the phone calls, which I would have acted upon immediately like I had the previous 8 years.
Well, you didn't think about it. Did you have to read a contract did you have to fill out a contract giving a phone number or whatever, or how did that work?
I think it was just the one that was on file. I should have called to update, but again, I didn't know that was the email it was going to. If I had known, obviously, I would have changed it to an email I use currently, and I would have acted immediately.
You don't have a personal email, then you just have a business email?
I had a business, yes. Now I have a personal email that I use that is now on file with Justin. I spoke with him at length about this and changed all the information when I heard this information. And I've also been told, I don't know if this is true or not, that it's possible for me to ask for a letter to be sent instead of an email if I'm not looking at emails or if email is not my preferred way to communicate. I don't know if that's true. But I would have hoped that a letter would have come as a code red, not because even the phone call that came to someone, nobody answered because the phone number doesn't exist. So I've never actually been contacted by the town in any way, shape, or form that actually got to me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
So that code red, I believe, is a call that comes in and says, you know you're about to lose your slip, and they're talking to the actual slip holder. That clearly didn't happen, and I don't blame the town, obviously, because it was my fault for not updating the record. However, that being the case, I really did never receive these contacts.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Rothman.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the
Hi,
committee?
I have a question. It's Jessica.
Okay, it was Jessica, and then was that David after?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go Jessica. All right, Jessica, then David.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is for Justin. So Justin, so basically the applications, and I'm sorry because I've actually been at this longer than you have, but I'm just trying to remember. So the applications usually go out in December, correct?
Yeah, for the last 2 years, they've gone out the second or third week in December.
Okay. And I'm sorry, if any other commission members, maybe Scott or Brian, who's been around for longer, before that, was it in December or was it in January? Do we recall when the applications would go out?
This is Scott. Jessica, I don't recall it being that much of a different date. Brian, you remember anything different? It might, if anything, it moved it up.
No, this is Brian. I don't recall, but with Robin, it was certainly a little looser how we handled it.
Right, no, and I do recall that, and that's one of the reasons why we just, had to change some things because things were kind of loose. But it has been this way for at least 2 years where the applications go out in December and the deadline is February.
This is Michael again, but it's via email, not mail. That has changed recently as well over the last couple of years versus the way it was the last
right, but for the past
20
couple
years.
of years, it has gone out via email.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to check and see.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, just while I have the floor here for a second, that, I do think that, the onus should definitely be on the slip holders to circle the date on the calendar. And I've said this before when we've had appeals before us in the past, but, I have a parking permit at the station, and I'll tell you right now that I have June, marked down. If I don't get that application by the middle of June, I'm calling the parking authority. So, I just feel that, the onus should definitely be on the slip holders to make sure that they have something circled on their calendar or a reminder on their phone or something like that that's going to beep and say, you should have gotten this by now. So, because there is, from December to February, that's more than 2 months that slip holders have before when they receive the application to when they have to submit the application. And there are multiple reminders in the meantime. And, perhaps it might be helpful going down the road for people to also check their applications and see if their email addresses and their phone numbers are the correct ones. But again, that should be beholden on the slip holder. It shouldn't be Justin and his staff's job to make sure that, every phone number and email address is correct. But we know that we have people who wait an awfully long time to get slips and, on the waiting list. And, I just know how long I had to get a parking permit. And so I'm making sure that I am not going to miss that July 1st deadline for the parking permit. So I'm not quite sure what more we can do to just encourage people to understand that you've got that window from December to February. And everyone should be aware of that.
This is Michael again. Would you agree, though, that this is a unique circumstance with the coronavirus? And my thinking, because the marina wasn't open. But the marina wasn't open.
Well, the marina's never open in February.
Right, but my point is, when I realized in March that the marina wasn't open, I didn't think twice about not. And again, the onus is clearly on me. But to have waited this long to get the slip and to have it that long and just certain circumstances that happen, clearly the onus is on me, and it'll never happen again. But it's not like I make this appeal every year. and I let it slip, a lot of things have changed in my daily life, not to mention the way that you communicate to me. Clearly my issue, and I understand that, but that's why I'm looking for a little lenience here because of the circumstances that we're in.
Right, but I think it's also important to remember that there are a lot of people who are waiting on that waiting list, just as everyone who has a slip now did. And, granting exemptions every time we do means that those people are going to have to wait at least another year for a slip. So
and I understand that completely, but it is. I haven't moved out of town. I've shirked my responsibility to be on time, but I haven't done anything other than that particular thing to avoid anything, whether it be property taxes. I mean, I ran a very successful business in town for years, paying taxes and things like that. So that's why I'm looking to the commission to. I granted you can't take every appeal and say yes, we exemption, but if I had done things on time, the slip would still be mine, regardless, because I am still in town. And yes, it was my fault for not doing it sooner, but that doesn't change my status as a member in the town, if that makes sense.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
David?
As I asked Mr. Ciccarelli, you're willing to pay the late fee, $250?
Yes, I understand that, and I would have no problem paying that, as I understand it is my fault.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? If there aren't any, I just want to go back on a couple of things. The appeals, as almost everybody knows, has been an issue for years. And the subcommittee, which Brian, myself, Mary served on a few years ago, spent an enormous amount of time trying to get this reworded so that we would not be in the situation we're in this evening. And on the application that Mr. Rothman completed, in capital letters, and we did this on purpose, time is of the essence with regard to all filing deadlines. It is the responsibility of the applicant to be aware of the filing procedures and to make sure that the town has proper contact information. The town will not be responsible, nor will waivers be granted for missed or improper communication. The paragraph above that, and this is something I'm going to ask Mary and Brian and anybody else who can recall, we put that April 15th date in there for a reason, where it was, okay, if you got a piece of paper in before the deadline of February 19th, but you didn't have your registration or current registration, or you didn't have your insurance card, you had time to get that in. But April 15th was absolutely the deadline. And that was, wasn't debated lightly by the subcommittee or the commission. And unfortunately, Mr. Rothman missed everything. So I don't know how. I'm not sure how.
The only reason I'm even here and fighting my case is because.
Mr. Rothman.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
We allowed you to speak before. Everyone on the commission is allowed to speak, and I was in the middle of speaking.
I'm sorry. Of course.
And we'll return back to you. But my question to my fellow commissioners are, we adopted these rules in the past couple of years. We just did this. And now we're immediately saying, okay, let's waive the rules that we just endorsed ourselves. And then the other part of this is the email communication is not new. It wasn't brand new. Yes, it wasn't brand new last year. That initiated with Andy, which is at least 3 years ago, if not 4 years ago. Justin, this is your second full season of sending out the renewals. Is that correct?
I started February of 2019, so I did not actually send out last year's emails. I did send out this year's. So I'm starting my second season.
Right. So we're aware of last year, and I want to say that Andy was doing it for a couple of years at least. So this is not a new policy or procedure.
Correct. My understanding, he did it for, I believe, 3 years, but I don't have that in writing. Searching my files right now.
And then, Justin, just quickly, how many people do you have on the wait list now, and what's the average average wait time?
For the small list, it's I believe it's about 2 years. The medium is a 4 to 5 years, and the large is a solid 11 years.
And then, okay, one more then. Is D028, is that considered a small or a medium slip?
That is a small slip.
Okay. All right. Back to any other member of the commission? If there's no more questions, does anyone care to take action on this request?
This is Chris.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to deny the appeal.
There is a motion to deny the appeal. Is there a second? Now, Chris, if we could, this is a procedure question. I hate to do this to you. We typically do not make a motion in the negative.
Correct.
And the reason we do that is, let's say that you make a motion to deny and that is seconded, and then for whatever reason we don't vote and we don't actually approve the motion as to deny. In a sense, it's like a reversal approval. So motion should be made in the affirmative. So we could vote against it, or if you're not interested.
I'm going to make a motion to vote against the appeal.
No, that's. If you're.
I can make it.
Dave, go ahead.
David.
Yeah, I can make it easier. I'll move to approve the appeal.
Okay. All right. There's a motion to approve.
This is Bridget, and I will second.
There is a second. Okay, David, back to you. It is your motion. Do you want to add anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, there's a first and a second from Bridget. Okay, if there's any further questions from the commission. Going around, I'm going to do a roll call for vote. Brian?
Nay.
Nay. Mary?
I abstain.
An abstention. Jessica?
No.
David?
Yes.
Okay. Chris?
No.
Bridget?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, and then back to me, I'm going to vote against. That is a no. So the vote is Walker, no. Nareau, no. Gerber, no. That is 4, and Chris McCoy is no. There are 4 votes no, and Weber, yes. McBride, yes. Benton, yes. 1 abstention. The motion to approve has failed. Mr. Rothman, thank you very much.
This is Michael Rothman. Can I just ask a quick question? Was it
briefly?
Yeah, you just. So you just said it was 5-4. Do I need a certain number?
4-3.
No, the commission needs to have a majority of those voting to approve it.
5 said yes, 4 said no. Correct?
No.
Isn't that?
No, that's not correct. We have 1, 2, 3 votes to approve your appeal, and 1, 2, 3, 4 votes against approving your appeal. So that's 4-3. Your appeal is denied.
So, one other point, and I know it's not going to change anything, but the person just before me was approved just based on a date. Because you said it yourself, you put the rules in place for a reason. But that rule was broken by the person before me, but because the date was earlier than my date, you approved his and denied mine. That person before me broke the rules just like I did, exactly the same way I did, but based on the time, you're approved one versus another. The reasoning doesn't make sense. Does the commission understand where I'm coming from?
I think the commission is clear on where you're coming from. And we have voted, and your business is concluded. You are free to get back on the wait list, and as Justin said, the wait list.
I guess thank you for nothing, but you'll be hearing from me because I have the notes. You've appealed. You've accepted one appeal and not another for the same reason.
Mr. Rothman, thank you.
Okay, fine. It's a terrible way to do business. I can't believe that happened. All right.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Next up on our list of appeals is Mr. William Keel. Is Mr. Keel on the line?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Welcome
Hello?
to our meeting. Thanks for joining us via phone.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to state the nature of your appeal for the commission?
Yes, I was obviously also late and getting my information in. This is my second year renewing the slip, and I too had an email address that I don't look at or really use anymore, and I had thought I had gone when I went in last year and put all my paperwork in. I thought I corrected it. I know I would have corrected both of the phone numbers, which are still not correct. One is an old number that would have never been in my original application, and the second phone number doesn't exist or is not any number associated with us. I am still at fault. I totally appreciate that. I should have this on my calendar and should know exactly when. And I obviously am at fault in that regard and will not make that mistake again for sure. I think I had that April 15th deadline, which I did miss due to a loss of the family. But once I had everything ready for that. I didn't read the original deadline correctly. I misinterpreted what that was. Once I did realize that I was late and was aiming to get everything in by the 15th, and then missed that by a few days. So again, I'm new to this. I know that's not an excuse, but I just would. I certainly had absolutely no intention whatsoever. I did wait a long time for the slip, and to lose it after basically my second season was not ever anything that I intended to do. So I want to make sure, obviously, going forward, that if my appeal is accepted, that all the paperwork and phone numbers and everything are corrected for sure. And again, I'm quite certain that I had done that last year. Certainly with the phone numbers, I would not have let two inactive numbers or one number that isn't our number, have been on there. But moreover, I do realize that it is absolutely my responsibility to watch the calendar and, like taxes, have it in on time or, obviously in time with everything. So that's my statement, and hopefully you'll allow me to keep the slip.
Mr. Keel, before I turn this over to my fellow commissioners, may I ask you a question? I'm a little confused on the phone numbers. You're saying that neither one of these phone numbers is yours?
No, neither of those phone. The first number is an original number that was disconnected. It was an IP phone, or it was what came with cable. The second number is not any number that's associated with me or my wife or at all for us. So and again, I don't know if the 292 number that's on the application was because it was associated early on when we moved back to town, and I put my application in. It's very possible. but it is not a number that has been inactive longer than I've been a member or had the slip.
Okay, thank you. And your email address is not accurate either?
The email address is accurate. It is just not an email that I use, and I don't look at often. And again, and because of that, I am almost certain that when I went in last season to do this, because I had requested my proper email, my company email address, which I do check.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, this is Chris. I have a question.
Sure, thank you.
Go for it.
Mr. Keel, so you went to the Marina and you requested a change of email? That's correct? The one that you actually use?
I submitted when I went in last year and provided all my paperwork and all my information. I didn't mail it in. I went in to do that. And when I did, I distinctly remember asking if we could change that so that if this was done only via email, which I wasn't, and again, I'm not claiming that I wasn't told this in the beginning. It may have been, but I knew that was dangerous because that email does not get looked at often.
So my question is, do you recall who you spoke to, when you spoke to, what email address you gave them?
I spoke to the last gentleman that was at the office last year, Andy. He's the one that I worked with when I got it, and then I gave him my company address. I have my own business, and I gave him my company address.
Okay, and when was this done? Do you what year? 2018?
This was done last year. Yeah, in January of 2019.
January 2019. Okay.
I think is when I renewed my slip for the first time last year. So I had yes, for last season. I came off the wait list.
At that point, did you address the change of phone numbers? Just the email?
I definitely would have put I wouldn't have allowed those numbers, which again were not active at the time. And the second number too is not even our phone number.
Okay. Thank you.
And I don't know how that got on there. Honestly.
No, I'm curious too. I mean,
Jessica, I have a question when Chris is done.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jessica. I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I'm sorry. Anthony or Scott, when did Andy leave us?
Well, it would have been the tail end of 2018. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think it was October of 18, and then Justin was hired in February of 19.
Right. So, and the application from 2019 for Mr. Keel is dated February 2nd, 2019. So Andy wouldn't have been there, but nor would Justin.
Correct. It would have been processed by Kyle in Public Works. She's the only admin there.
Right, that's what I thought.
So
it would have been Kyle then who had done.
I thought it was.
It was a woman, by the way. I know Kyle's a man's name, but Kyle's actually a woman.
Okay. I apologize. I know I spoke with Andy at least. I met him at one point, and it was maybe when we first originally got the slip.
This is Bridget. I have a question when Jessica's done.
I'm done. Thank you.
Jessica? Okay. Bridget?
Mr. Keel, when you went to go refile your application late, what was the date again of this year?
Well, I intended to do it before the April 15th deadline. I definitely realized that I missed the original one, and I had read it that I had until the 15th to get it in with the late fee, the penalty. I missed that 15th deadline. My father passed away from COVID on the 11th, and that the following several days were difficult.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
My condolences.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? So, if I may, this is Scott. Mr. Keel, so when about did you realize that you missed the original deadline? At that time, did you make any attempt to contact the Marina prior to the Public Works Department prior to April 20?
I did. I only once I realized that. It was prior. It was no. I don't think so. I reached out to Justin as soon as I realized I'd missed the 15th date, and said, and because I had everything ready, and it was sitting on my desk, and then I realized I'd missed the second deadline, and then I talked to him and reached out.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, Mary.
Mr. Keel, where did you get the idea that April 15th was the end-all date?
That's what's on the packet of information, and I'd read that once. I'd read that after I'd found the application. I didn't, so I had that date in mind, that was the sort of the last day to get everything in with a late fee and, to keep the slip. And I failed to thoroughly read through, obviously, all of the paperwork, which after the fact, realizing that I'd made a grave mistake.
Well, this paperwork, when did you get all this paperwork that had that, this number was somewhere where you saw it, right?
Yes, ma'am. It was in my Gmail. It was in there, and I had dug it out. I too had in mind that things were coming up for renewal. My boat registration from the state had come in, and I thought I figured I better go check on everything and realized. And then I saw that I was after that first deadline, and then just had everything ready to go, processed the registration with the state and got that in, although I do realize now that I could have just given last year's, and that was active, and then had everything to get in before the deadline, the second.
The final deadline is for all the material except the application, right? The application had to be filed earlier.
My understanding, yes.
Mary, if I may, this is Scott. The process is if someone gets their information in prior to the February 19th deadline, whether it is just the application or just a check or just communication to
that's what I thought.
then okay, so now you're not automatically approved if you get it all in by April 15th, but you will be considered for approval. So the April 15th is not a automatic you're in. The April 15th is we're going to consider it anyway. The only date where you're definitely back in the Marina is if you file all of your paperwork prior to February 19th, by February 19th.
Because that's been changed on and on, on and on and on. It's been changed. That's all and I don't have a slip there, so I don't have any reason to retain all that. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the commission?
This is Brian.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but since there have been a number of questions with regards to Andy, Andy joined us. He was involved with the tail end of the 2015 application process. So he was with us for 4 years, and his last day was September 28th, 2018. Just FYI.
Thank you for that. And would you recall when the emails started going out under Andy? I thought it was pretty early on.
I don't know if it was corrected for the 16 season. It may have been the 17 season. I have to look because we had that 1 year that we had 50 appeals.
That's correct.
And that was, I believe, the last year that we mailed the application because everyone discussed the fact that the postman lost it, the dog ate it, they mailed it from a hotel in Florida that they didn't realize went out. The mail went out every day, and so it was. I could find that. I'll look over the next few minutes to see if I could find that, but I'm guessing it would have been for the winter of 16-17.
I believe you're correct. I remember that meeting. That was over in Town Hall. We had that.
Yes.
And then right after that, Kyle took over and was absolutely drowning in this stuff, right?
That I don't recall. Any
Well,
other questions from the commission? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is Bridget. I want to make a motion to approve Mr. Keel's appeal.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Is there a
second that
second to the
motion.
motion?
It's Dave, yeah, I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, David. We already have Mary, but thank you for that.
Yep.
Bridget, back to you. It is your motion. Any further discussion? Okay. I'll now do a roll call, starting with Brian. The motion to approve the appeal of William Keel.
No.
Mary?
Yes.
Jessica?
No.
David?
Yes.
Chris?
No.
Bridget?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And back to me. My vote is no. So the votes are Fontanta, yes. Weber, yes. McBride, yes. Benton, yes. That is 4. Those opposed are Walker, Moreau, Gerber, and McCoy. That is 4-4. The appeal fails for lack of majority.
May I just say one thing to maybe reconsider that? In my first year that I was at the Marina, I never even got my slip. It wasn't until August, and I didn't bring this up when we first started talking here, but I had to tie up for the season, and I did. And Andy was and I never complained about that. I accepted it. I know we all have busy lives and things, and I finally got it. And the entire time that I was in the slip last year and the time prior to that, the slip next to me had remained empty. The rules in that state that if you don't have a vote in by July, you lose your slip. And as far as
Mr. Keel, if I may interrupt, that is not germane to the motion that we just voted on. How the Marina
I understand.
Is done by the Marina manager, and there are reasons throughout the season while slips may be left, and we don't need that. We don't need to explain that as part of our vote with regards to your appeal. I mean, I'm trying to be.
I understand. Okay.
How he runs the Marina is how Justin runs the Marina.
I understand.
Yeah, but he has the right to say what he wants to say,
No, that's true, but it also has to be germane
it's frustrating. It is frustrating I get it. I mean, we're trying to have a life here after this whole COVID mess, and I am appealing to your sentiment here, or better, just to allow me to. I don't have a trailer, I don't have a car to trail it down. I understand and accept, just as the first person, indicated, and I understand the second gentleman is saying, but I haven't had a slip for 10 years, and I haven't. It is a fairly new process, and the information that is on the forms that I have tested you and tried to correct. This is only the second time that I've had to submit this information, and you accept somebody that had been in for, again, 10 years. I mean, yes, this is something that should be on my calendar. Yes, and it is will be. I waited so long for this slip, and we've had a tough, go of this last few months, as everybody has, and I understand that. And we are just very much trying to get out on the water and have some semblance of normalcy. And I really just wish you would reconsider this. I have two daughters in the schools here. I know everybody's got their own issues, but we're just very much trying to get back on track. And our boat is such a big part of it. I just don't understand. I mean, I just wish you would have a little bit more sympathy or understanding that this wasn't entirely my fault. If there are red alerts, calls, and there aren't the proper phone numbers after a request to update, I guess that's something.
Thank you.
Mr. Teal, thank you very much. We do appreciate you phoning in tonight, and we do appreciate your appeal, and we do sympathize with you. But the commission has voted, and this has been concluded.
So is there any recourse that I can take here to try to get a slip for this year, or am I now out of any opportunity? I mean, what is the procedure here then for me? I mean, am I now having to go and apply again for a slip and wait the next couple of years or however long for a small slip?
That's correct.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for hearing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the appeals and acting on those. I did err in our agenda. I skipped over one item of public input that came in from Joan earlier this afternoon on a situation that came about that I was involved in discussion with the director on. The emergency management team in town, in conjunction with the First Select Woman's Office, and I guess, Anthony, you can correct me where I'm wrong, in conversations with Justin and Anthony, but the decision was made by the emergency management team and the First Selectmen, where they are limiting the parking down at South Benson to M stickers only. And that presented a problem for a couple of people that are co-slip holders. So because we only give the M stickers to the slip holders, we now have a situation where, this is for a few people, but only one person brought to our attention so far, where you have two Fairfield residents who are partners on a boat, and one of them cannot access the parking lot. And I mistakenly suggested something, and then Kyle corrected me, and I appreciate the fact that she got back to me. And I said, well, listen, it makes sense we'll give them both an M sticker, given the restrictions that were put in place by the emergency management team in town. And Kyle was very concerned about that approach. So now it's being presented to the commission for further discussion. We don't have to take action on it tonight. It is not something that we implemented ourselves. It's not something that we even have to answer ourselves, but we should be aware of it, and we can consider it if you like. Everyone received those emails?
Yes.
Yes.
And before you start, I do want to apologize to Anthony and Justin personally, because I was very frustrated that this policy was put in place, and I thought that the director and the marina manager made this decision without consulting with the commission, and that was not the case. So to the director and to the marina manager, I do apologize for expressing my frustration and anger. So what do we do with that? If we didn't make the decision to limit parking to only M stickers, what do we do about that? Do we have any interest in taking that in there?
Scott, I got a question for you.
Sure, Chris?
Or Anthony, anybody that could answer it. So if you have a boat and you have a joint ownership with two residents in town that do not live in the same household, are you only allotted one M sticker?
No, what you're allotted, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but the way I understand it is the slip holder themselves can be allotted 2 M stickers, but for vehicles registered to their house. Is that correct, Justin?
That is correct.
So
if you and I were partners, and you were the slip holder, Chris, you could not say, well, here's Walker's license plate, give him an M sticker.
And I'm just throwing this out there without really much thought, but it's kind of my short little belief here that, if you and I had a boat and we were both residents of town and we had 2 stickers that we were allotted per boat, per slip, as long as we were both residents of town and we proved that we're going in as a partnership, I don't really see a big issue on that. But, again, I'm not aware of how many parking spaces there are relative to the amount of slips and how slippery of a slope that could get, but that's my uneducated opinion right now.
Well, let me, this is Scott. That was my take originally, and it was. I thought the exact same thing, and Kyle immediately pointed out the flaw in my thinking, and it has always been a problem in the past. And I know that Andy in particular was very diligent, and so is Justin now, finding out people who have slips in town, who have slips in the marina but are not residents in town. And they partner with somebody, right? And they have someone in Fairfield who has the slip, but they're not really using the slip. It's another person's out of town, and they circumvent the wait list by doing that. And Kyle brought that to our attention, to my attention, and said, listen, the same thing's going to happen with the M sticker. Yeah. So,
but is there a way to cut that off at the head where, if you have an out-of-town vehicle registration, there's no M sticker?
That's currently what it is. I'm sorry, and this is Anthony, by the way.
Okay, so if that's the case, I don't see how an out-of-towner would be able to register their vehicle for the sticker.
You can get before, though, if I may. This is Scott. You could, as an out-of-towner, you could still get a beach sticker, right?
Not for the marina.
That's a not for the marina, but you could still get a beach sticker.
Yeah. Yep.
Which would have gotten you into the marina last year.
No, the beach sticker they only get them into Jennings, but the marina rules, you could come in as a guest to the marina and park as a boat owner's guest. We're not allowing guests right now at the marina. I think maybe the temporary solution while we have this COVID situation with the M stickers is maybe we just give people that are co-owners that Justin knows, we can verify are co-owners of these boats. Maybe we just give them a placard or something they could put on their dashboard and the guards know they're a boat owner, or we give them a list with these names, and when they come, they can get in.
Yeah, I mean, there seems like a plausible solution. That sounds...
This is Scott again, and I agree with that, but a question for the director. If, let's say, we do that, and again, that makes all sense in the world to me too, as did what Chris said, but if we do that, are we then running afoul of the intent of the emergency management team who were trying to limit the number of people parking down there in the first place?
Well, they were trying to accommodate the boat owners, the slip holders, because there's 1,200 M stickers that go out, and we don't have 1,200 spots there. So that's what they were trying to do, and that's why they've kept the Ash Creek parking lot closed to the general public as well, and we're using that for the marina. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can run this. I have an emergency team meeting tomorrow, so I could always run this scenario by them. I'm sure when they decided to do this, they just didn't. It's not one of these. There's a lot of intricacies to this whole marina, as you guys know.
Scott.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
You owned a boat jointly, right?
I did down there. That is correct. That's no longer the case. I'm no longer in the marina. I'm at another marina.
I know, but one of you had to be the owner, right? It wasn't both of you. One of you got awarded the slip, not both of you.
Right. My name was on the title, and Kyle actually set me straight when, a little bit of history, my name actually came up, and I passed as a dummy on a large slip about 8 or 9 years ago, and I told Kyle that, and she says, listen, even though your name is on the title to the boat with Paul Rivenberg, if he happens to move out of town, the slip goes with him. Well, you can imagine what happened. Paul Rivenberg moved out of town he moved out of town several years ago, and I was no longer in South Benson Marina.
Right.
And that's how Kyle explained it to me, and that is exactly what happened, and shame on me.
And it's the same. Does one of these people, the one who gets the M sticker, got the M sticker, is he the owner of the slip?
They're both on it. They're both on the title, as far as I understand.
They are.
That's correct. They're co-owners. I don't know what percent.
So if one leaves, the other one can stay.
No. So if the slip holder leaves, the second owner of the boat would have to go back on the wait list to come up, just like what's happened with Scott.
Yeah. All right. Well, then the same sort of thing might apply to the M sticker, huh? Except nobody's left. But one is less power to keep the slip. Cannot keep the slip. It's the first one that can keep it. I don't know, but I'm not expressing myself very well. But there's a difference in power here.
Hi, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian.
If the title of the boat is truly in joint names, and both parties reside in Fairfield, I have no problem at all issuing one of the M stickers to each of the parties. I think, given the circumstances, I would be in favor of that. Now, if one of the parties lives in Trumbull or somewhere else, then I would not be in favor, and that puts a little bit more work onto, Justin's shoulders, because he's got to verify both parties actually live in town. I would certainly support that, or if the easier way would be to simply give a list to the guard, then I would be in favor of that on a temporary basis as well. That would effectively put 3 M stickers into one slip. So, Anthony, you would have to verify that with during your meeting tomorrow, but I would be in favor of either of those outcomes.
Yeah, this is Chris. I'm in agreement with Brian on that. I think that if you can prove title with a colleague, a friend, and you're a resident of town, then you deserve an M sticker. But if it's a situation where, it's a quid pro quo or, a wink of the eye, something like that, I'm a little bit more hesitant because that's, where a little bit more chicanery comes in. And, in this case, you may have some unscrupulous behavior, but I agree with Brian.
This is Jamie. If I can make a comment, I think the whole purpose of this, as somebody mentioned it before, is what the whole question is: was there an assumption to limit the parking, to make more parking available for the actual boat owners? Was there an assumption that by doing this there would be one car per boat typically going out? I think if that's the case, then it's probably out of our jurisdiction to even decide. But if and I think if there was an assumption that there could be both stickers there, then I think it's reasonable how we're talking about it. But I think it's got to go back to the original purpose for limiting to M only. And if the assumption was one car per boat to make sure everyone had a spot, then I think we have to leave it.
Good point.
Again. Yeah, this is Scott again. Anthony, I agree with what everybody has just said, but I'm not sure we're in a position where we could actually grant a waiver of existing policy, given that the restriction on the parking was made by a higher authority in town anyway. So even though we say, okay, that's a good idea, isn't this something that you probably should run by your emergency management team tomorrow? And then
yes.
All right. So if that were the case, could we tonight grant a conditional authority to implement this policy if the emergency management team is in agreement?
That I think you can do. I don't know that you need to do that, but
we don't.
I will bring that plan forward to the committee tomorrow, and if they want to go that route, they can. I don't know when they're going to lift the restrictions or loosen them up. The beaches are opening up. When I get to my report later, the beaches are opening up. I think everybody saw the email today, so things are starting to loosen. But
right. So I think you're right that we don't have to. In the example that Chris made before, if he and I were partners, and he had the M sticker, and all I have is a regular town dump beach sticker parking, and you went to emergency managers and said, okay, well, here's our situation, and then say, okay, fine, just make a list, like Brian said, make a list of all the co-owners, I'd be approved by default anyway. So we actually don't need to take action tonight. It's really up to the emergency management team to make this decision.
Fair enough. Nope, I think you're right.
Does anyone else on the commission have an opinion on that? Am I making a mistake there?
No, I agree. Jessica.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
No, appreciate your input.
This is Bridget. I just wanted to say I agree, and I'm wondering, I'm kind of looking around the website, but I'm not finding anything. But I'm wondering if there's anything on the slip holder's application that says that they won't be denied access for any reason at any time to the marina. So that could be another way, like another loophole for them to be able to somehow have some sort of temporary placard on their car.
This is Justin. Can I answer that for a second?
Please.
So it's always and historically been just the slip holder gets access. It's not co-owners who get access as we're discussing. So I do think there could be a concern that you'll have one person stay as a slip holder because they've got the slip holder, and then potentially have various other town residents use that slip. I know in a lot of the situations that's true, honest co-owners, but I think that's the concern that Kyle was wanting to express.
Okay. Anything else on this issue? Okay. So just a question or a request for the director. You'll send a recap of your meeting on this matter to the commission.
Yes.
When you have their answer.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now back to the agenda under new business. The coronavirus facility and program update.
Okay. This is Anthony, and you guys all should have received my director's report, which essentially just tells you that pretty much all our programs have been canceled from mid-March until July 1 as of right now. Beaches are opening up. They are open currently to residents only for walking and exercising. They will be open this Saturday, staffed with lifeguards, and essentially Fairfield residents will be able to sit and enjoy the beach like they typically had in the past, following all the social distancing guidelines, blankets, no closer than 15 feet together, no groups larger than 5 based on the governor's executive order. And really the only restriction we have on the beach are no bonfires and no grills, just to try to avoid groups from gathering. So the beaches will still be limited, reduced capacity and limited to Fairfield residents only for the time being. So we're not doing daily parking. So non-residents, or people without stickers will be turned away from the beaches this weekend. Police will be on site, to help the lifeguards and our parking attendants, and have a pretty good presence on each of our beaches. Fields, parks, all of those other facilities that we have will all be opening up over the next couple of days in order to be open for this weekend as well for use by individuals or groups of less than 5 people, but no organized team play or sports, no pickup soccer games, no pickup baseball games, things of that nature. Playgrounds are all going to remain closed for the time being. That seems to be the standard stance across the country, just because they have so many contact points on them. And the other big thing right now are that the public restrooms are remaining closed until we get further guidance from the state of Connecticut. We've been following the state and CDC. They're keeping all the public restrooms in the state, at the state beaches, at the state parks closed, just because right now we don't know how to monitor people going in and out of them and how to keep them clean and safe. So the recommendation has been to use portables or porta potties. So that is currently what's at our golf courses. That's what's at our a few of our parks and at our beaches right now. Programming wise, we are in the process of refunding a lot of programs. Our staff has been working countless hours, day in and day out, just doing refunds. And we've been refunding our summer camp program right now, so there's a few thousand refunds there, all our pavilion events and things of that nature. We are still looking to offer a summer option. We're going to try to market it as child care, a summer child care option, as opposed to a child camp, or as opposed to a summer camp. Basically, the state has laid out guidelines for us saying you have to follow these small groups. You can't have more than 10 kids in a group, and you can't have more than 30 kids on site. So obviously that puts a hamper on everything we're trying to do. So it reduces the number of sites and locations we'll be able to use. We are still working with the Board of Education currently. Again, I have a meeting tomorrow where I'm hoping that they'll be able to work with us and give us some locations for this summer. But they've been waiting for guidance from the state as well on summer school plans and summer programming for them. So once they have that, then they'll really be able to work with us. But when we have our locations, we will put something together to hold a registration date, hopefully in the next week or two, to get a few hundred kids into our child care program for this summer. With the state reopening today, obviously, we want to get people back to work, and child care is a big part of that. So we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to offer families that option. I'm happy to take any questions, or if there's something I didn't cover in that overview, happy to answer for you guys.
Hi, Anthony. It's Chris. I've had a lot of people asking me because they knew there was a meeting tonight. Obviously, the fields are closed till June 30th, but may there be a response with the emergency management team that would allow the fields to open for Little League Baseball prior to that date?
I don't believe so. Right now, CDC guidance is that there's no sports at all, no group sports, no team sports. So that's been the guidance that we've been following. That may change. I mean, this is a very fluid situation. So, yeah, as of right now, we are opening fields this weekend for individual use, and, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that will take advantage of that. But as far as Little Leagues and, Babe Ruth and travel soccer and that kind of stuff, I just don't foresee that stuff happening anytime.
And would there be a chance that it extends, so for organized sports like travel soccer, softball, Little League, would there be a chance that it extends beyond June 30th far into July, maybe August, or do we not know?
It's really uncertain right now. We haven't been given any guidance, and the state seems to be going 1 month at a time.
Great, thanks.
Bridget, I have a question if you guys are finished with that conversation.
Chris, were you done with that question?
I'm done. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay. Yep, you're welcome.
Okay. Bridget?
Thank you. Anthony, my question is about the child care. I just wanted to know what the rationale was behind it being indoors, and from what I understand, with not being air conditioned.
Right. So we tried to lay out what a typical scenario would look like at our schools. I'm sure, as most of you guys are aware, a lot of our schools don't have air conditioning. So I'm not picking on any schools. My children go to North Stratfield, but North Stratfield doesn't have air conditioning. So if we were given North Stratfield for this summer and 3 classrooms there that don't have air conditioning, that's the worst case scenario, is that the kids are going to be in a classroom without air conditioning. Best case, they're at Burr and they've got air conditioning. As far as the indoor versus the outdoor, again, we tried to lay out and follow the state guidelines, OEC guidelines, as best we can. Their recommendation is that these camps are indoors and they have plumbing, so kids can wash their hands constantly. For us to do, to take put a camp at a park, like Owen Fish or somewhere where you might not have bathroom access and you're using a porta potty and you don't have running water, we don't have the cleaning supplies or access to Purell, to the amount of Purell that we would need to keep kids safe. So that's essentially why we laid out what I hate to say what the worst case scenario childcare would look like. But again, we're trying to offer childcare as opposed to summer camp, and I don't want parents to be misled thinking that the product we're going to put out on the in the schools this summer or on the fields this summer is anything comparable to what we've done in the past, because it's not. We're not allowed to do field trips. We're not allowed to have the groups interact with each other. I mean, these kids will be with the same 10 kids the whole session. They're not allowed to interact with another group of 10. They're not even allowed to be within 6 feet of each other. So, to have a kid come to camp and try to play checkers, they can't do it. They can't play duck, duck, goose.
I appreciate the efforts of your department doing this, but that is impossible. As a mom of 4 kids, that's impossible. So it's not. There's no way that is practicing safe social distancing. And again, I'm not trying to blame you, but that is absolutely not going to happen.
I understand completely as a father of 3 children. I absolutely understand, and I have a I'm a panelist on a conference call tomorrow with the OEC Commissioner Beth Bai, and they want to hear about our plans to lay out, what we're doing for this summer. So I will have the person who has created these guidelines that we have to follow. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be able to pick her brain, for the little bit of time I'll have her on that call, to see are they going to loosen these up by the time June 29th rolls around and we've got to roll this out. I don't know. There's just so many unknowns right now, and that's why a lot of towns are opting not to run childcare or a summer camp option this summer. And
that's my last question. Are we required to provide some sort of childcare for these children? I mean, trust me, I know I'm a working mom, and I know many are on this panel as well. And so having childcare is crucial, but I just worry about the implications, and also if they're in our schools and what that's going to make September look like for our children being able to go back to school.
Yeah, those are all real considerations, and that's the Board of Ed's concern as well. They want to make sure that these schools are clean and ready to go, and that they have all the cleaning supplies they need to start schools in September. So if us holding a camp at one of these schools jeopardizes that, then we're not going to hold a camp at the schools. Our libraries are closed. Our senior center is closed. So these are all alternative locations that my staff have been working with those staffs to try to see, hey, okay, if we can't get the schools, can we maybe go to the library? Can we maybe use the senior center? So a lot of those logistics still have to be worked out. But I agree with you 100%. It will be a challenge, but I do think we can do it safely. I do think we can still make it fun. No, we're not legally bound to offer this child care or summer camp, but it is something that we would like to do and that we believe that our community needs. We sent out a survey to the 2,000 people that were registered for our summer camp. Not many responded as typical surveys do, but several hundred responded, and in that several hundred, we had, I think, 80 that deemed it absolutely necessary that they had child care, that they depended on us for child care. So, I mean, those are 80 people that I would love to be able to put something together for, regardless. And, I mean, if you can keep your kids home or you could find and you could afford a babysitter or, a nanny or a one-on-one or whatever you want to term it for the summer, I would definitely say that is probably a better option, because what we're going to put together is going to be, it should be for people that absolutely need it, and this is kind of like their last resort.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions on the coronavirus facility program? Okay. Now, Anthony, was that also probably your full director report as well? Or are we going to come back?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you want to move on to the field remediation update?
Yeah, this will be a quick one. Field remediation. The bids went out for the Gould Manor work, and I believe they're working with the contractor that I don't know where they are in the process of securing the bonds with the contractor, but I know they're at that point. So that field will be offline for the foreseeable future. I believe that they've got to remediate the entire thing. So it is currently all fenced off, and the Gould Manor Park area in the playground there is closed. I know the grass was overgrowing, but we've got our contractor going in to cut that to try to at least reduce the eyesore that it looks like right now. And unfortunately, that's the only remediation update that I have at this time.
This is Scott. Anthony, does that mean they're going to tear out the infields as well?
They are. I believe they're going to try to salvage the grass that's on the infield, because as far as I know, that was all added, after the fact, so it's not contaminated. I believe they're going to skin the infields, save the sod, and then just dig up the rest of the field.
That's Fairfield American, right?
That is Fairfield American.
and remove. Are they going to remove the soil and put it somewhere and replace it with clean soil?
That's correct.
Where are they going to put the lead-ridden soil?
That is outside of my pay grade. Brian Carey, Public Works,
I want to tell you, that'll cost
is monitoring that project.
It's going in your backyard, Mary.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. I don't have a backyard. Oh, boy.
Any questions on the field? Okay. Moving along. Jessica, you're up. Board of Education report.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing going on in the school system, so you can just move on. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously there's been a lot going on with the Board of Ed in the school district. So first of all, I'll just go through the budget issues because we're still, the budget process has been delayed slightly, so we still need to have the RTM approve our budget. Right now the Board of Selectmen has approved the budget, and the Board of Finance has approved the budget, which the Board of Ed approved ages ago, back in January. So the Board of Selectmen did vote to approve a $1.4 million cut to the Board of Ed budget. $800,000 of that was through changes in healthcare experience, so that should not impact the operating budget, but $600,000 will need to come out of the operating budget. So that's something that the superintendent is going to be working on with his staff to find savings. He'll present those to the board once the RTM has approved the budget. The Board of Finance did cut the budget an additional $2.2 million. The catch being that thanks to the coronavirus school closings, we did, as a district, manage to save a considerable amount of money through utilities, through transportation, through substitute teachers, other line items. So the $2.29 million should not, as of now, impact the operating budget for 2021 because of the savings that we have realized. What we do need to do is set up a non-lapsing account that will allow us to take the savings from this year's budget and move it forward to next year's budget. There is an MOU that the Board of Finance is working on right now to make that happen, but they have taken a sense of the body, and they are fine with that non-lapsing account being used. So basically, as of now, it looks like unless the RTM cuts the budget additionally, there will be $600,000 in savings that need to be found. So that should not be that difficult. The kind of wild card in all of this, though, is obviously what happens once school hopefully reopens in the fall. Obviously, if students are going to be back in school, there will be many costs that are not in the budget right now regarding, additional custodial fees, additional cleaning supplies, just so many aspects of the whole, just how that's going to work. And obviously that's a constantly moving target just in terms of how or what schools will look like come September if students can go back to school, which is still an unknown as of now. Obviously, we need to kind of see how things go over the summer. So that'll just kind of segue into the whole distance learning. So basically, starting mid-March, the district moved to distance learning. It's definitely been an adjustment for many students and families and teachers. I think overall it's kind of amazing how quickly the district was able to adapt. I think our teachers are doing a fantastic job. There has been additional professional development that's been taking place for the teachers to kind of get up to speed with what distance learning looks like. Obviously it's been really difficult for everyone. People are really missing seeing each other, working together, learning together. But all things considered, especially when you look at what's going on in other districts in our state and in other states, I think overall Fairfield has done a really great job with that. But I think people are definitely getting a little burned out now. So we did, as a board, at a virtual meeting that we had last month, vote on the last day of school, which will be Wednesday, June 17th. Although today the high schools did get information that for seniors, the last day of school will be June 2nd, and for freshmen through juniors, the last day of school will be June 9th. And part of the reasoning behind that is because there won't be final exams this year. And that usually takes up a whole week at the end of the year. So you kind of go back from the 17th, and that's how you get to the 9th. And then the seniors, seeing as how all of the different things that they've missed, and because, again, they're not having final exams, they are not going to be required to attend school for that final week that the underclassmen will be. Graduation is still up in the air. Obviously, with the limits on public gatherings, it would be impossible to have a traditional graduation ceremony at this point. The headmasters for Ludlow and Ward did present to the board plans to it was like a 3-tier plan. One would be to have students individually go to the school to get their diploma, to do a photo op with their immediate family, obviously practicing social distancing with the headmasters. And then the second part is to do a video that's being put together by one of the parents who does this for a living, with the speeches that would have been taking place at the live ceremony, in addition to all of the students in the senior class. The third part was proposed as a parade/caravan that would be the seniors driving through their old neighborhoods for elementary and middle school with members of the public out in their yards, cheering them on. People could decorate their cars. It would finish at the respective high schools. And, it would be a chance, again, to see the high school and see the headmasters one last time. There was not a very positive response to that third one. A lot of high school students and some of their parents did not feel that a parade or caravan was really something that seniors wanted to participate in. But we're really our hands are tied because, again, we do have that limit on public gathering. So even having, say, like each house have their own ceremony at this point really is not a viable option. If the limit of people who can gather together is 5, we can't really have that work, in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, there could be changes coming. I've heard that the governor may be putting out a statement about high school graduations because he is getting a lot of emails and letters from parents and students who are asking him to make an exception or come up with some sort of idea that will work. People have been talking about doing it at the drive-in. Lots of ideas have been floated around. I saw one school in New Hampshire is doing something on a ski lift, but, we don't have any ski lifts nearby, so that's not an option for us. So it's still to be determined, and once the headmasters get more guidance from the state and or the Board of Health, they certainly are willing to work with the students to try to make this a special occasion, seeing as all of the other traditions that seniors have missed out on, the prom, senior prank, senior internships, yes, you name it, they've missed out on it, and they're really feeling the pain, so it would be nice to do something for them, but it's just really a matter of what we are allowed to do, so that's to be continued, and I think that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the Board of Ed report?
I have a question, Jessica. It's Bridget.
Yeah.
This might be a ridiculous question, but does the governor define school opening in the fall, or is that district by district?
Well, if the governor is saying that schools cannot be opened, then nobody in the state can open the schools. If he says that the schools can be opened, but some districts, like for instance, with closing the schools, Fairfield chose to close our schools a few days before the governor put out the statewide closure. So once he says they can be opened, all of them can be opened, or that could be a district by district, a decision. And that is something else that is obviously being discussed that the superintendent and all the administrators have been working on. They've started a committee to kind of look into what reopening schools in the fall will look like, if that is possible, or if there will need to be a continuation of distance learning. Obviously, there are a lot of concerns. How do you do social distancing on a school bus? How do you do social distancing in a cafeteria, on a playground, in the hallways with passing, when you have high school and middle school students who are constantly changing classes. How does that work? What does it look like? So there are a lot of questions, and, we have been getting a lot of guidance. I just got something today from the CDC that's a very lengthy document talking about all of the different issues, taking students and staff's temperature every day when they come in. What happens when someone gets sick in the school? Do you close the entire school, or how does that work? What are we going to do about contact tracing? So there are so many pieces to this. It's really incredibly overwhelming. And when you read some of these documents, you can't imagine how we could possibly ever reopen the school based on all of the restrictions that are in place right now. But I know that our board chair, Christine Vitale, is talking to all of the different board chairs in Connecticut, and they're kind of keeping in touch and apprising each other of what their districts are doing. The same with the superintendents. And we are getting guidance from the state, from CABE, which is the Association of Boards of Education, working with Sands Cleary and the Board of Health. So, we're definitely getting a lot of input, both on a local, state, and national level. But it's really scary. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I just think that right now we just don't know what school is going to look like. Looking to Europe to see what those openings have been looking like, and how that works. But, it's just it's a lot to look at, but I know that we're all trying to come up with as many different options as possible, and many different parallel plans depending on where we are in July and August.
Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing. You're working so hard all the time, and this just must be just so much more on your plate. So
it's overwhelming, I gotta say. I mean, I'm sure Anthony feels the same way. It's just this is so uncharted, and just it's like I'm yearning for those days with all of the the field closures, and the toxic fill pilots seem so quaint now in comparison to what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, back to the director. Anything more on your report, or is that everything?
If I could just add one more thing, our budget has made it pretty much unscathed through the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. It's up for a vote on June 1st for the RTM, and I would hope if you all could write letters of support to your representatives supporting no more cuts, especially to the Recreation Department. That would be greatly appreciated. I was getting inundated with RTM questions today on different things that they're looking to cut. So it does sound like there may be a target on our back because we haven't been cut yet, and some of the other departments have been cut pretty big already. So any support is appreciated.
Anthony, is there anything that you could send out with regard to your modified budget that we could review? And the reason I'm asking is your department has always been a revenue source for the town. So how much of their programming are they talking about cutting of your programming? Because you're still, I guess all your revenue's gone, right?
Yeah, so I can send out the updated budget projections that we're going for fiscal 21, but essentially it was a lot of cuts between 20% on the revenue side to 50% on some of the the programming lines. I mean, we're in uncharted territory, as Jessica stated. So, I mean, these were our best guesses on, okay, well, if we can get things open by, August 1st or September 1st, maybe we only lose some pavilion rentals. But, I mean, a big part of what we're doing now is people need to feel comfortable to go back out into public and to sign their kids up for soccer and sign their kids up for karate or whatever the other programs are that we're running. And my staff is currently working on, what is fall programming going to look like post-COVID? Are there going to be more online courses? Are there going to be more drive-in movies, smaller groups, one-on-one things? So that's what my staff's working on. So, again, we're trying to budget the best we can for that, but obviously there's a lot of unknowns with it. So, between 20 and 50% cuts in revenue, but now they're looking at the expense side of things, and we had a new position for a rec coordinator in there that would be our take over the waterfront director and our Penfield Pavilion director. It would combine those positions and, and they do other programming for us. I think that's one of those positions that's going to have, even though it pays for itself with offsets from the revenue and the expenses are already there from the seasonal and part-time lines. Those are things that, I think are probably on the chopping block. The golf courses have already been hit. I know you guys don't oversee those per se, but they just cut the 2 capital line items, so $100,000 was cut from those budgets. So Parks and Rec, Waterfront, Marina, those are the only budgets that I have left that they haven't touched. So,
okay,
but we can get those numbers out to you guys so you can take a look.
All right, thank you. Any questions on the director's report? Okay, and then for good of the order before we adjourn, it's likely, or definitely possible, that we're going to be meeting this way, in June and beyond. So if there's any feedback from anyone, you want to send me an email, you want to talk about it now, about how the meeting went, how you think we can improve it, how we went about voting on motions, just let me know, and we'll see if we can implement that for next month. I have to imagine we're doing this again like this in June.
Scott, I have a good of the order question for you. I guess a Robert Rules order. So now that I think about it, because it's been a while, I probably should just not have made a motion in the negative, right?
That's
correct. The correct.
Because, and again, what happens is if we vote against it, if we vote down the negative, it's like a double negative, and does that mean that we are now approving it?
Correct.
Right? It's ambiguous. So
so in that type of situation, when it's a negative, just keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, well, if you don't support it, then you don't make any motion, and the appeal just falls to the floor, and that's it. It dies right there. But what David did is, he says, okay, let's approve it, right, and that gets it before the commission we vote on. We vote it up or down, and that's.
Thanks for saving my butt, David. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Hey, Scott. Scott,
yes.
I'm sorry. It's Brian. I just, not for the good of the order, but I just have one question. There were 4 appeals listed, but only 3 presented. Has the Heifer appeal been withdrawn?
It's been withdrawn.
It has. Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Why has it been withdrawn? Did I miss that?
It was withdrawn. Well, Justin, I don't want to step on your toes here, but I think that he felt that we were being unreasonable in denying his application in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm reading the email thread.
Scott, can I speak?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so I also reached out to Mr. Heifer yesterday, having not heard from a response about this Parks and Rec Commission meeting appeal. And when I spoke with him on the phone yesterday, he informed me that he was no longer going to appeal and would be donating his vote.
Justin, if you want, just for everybody's education, including my own, you want to add to that his vote is actually in winter storage in water?
Yeah, so that's in the appeals documents that I put in there. But he did his vote is currently in the marina in North IDOC, I-44, I believe.
But he's donating his boat or his slip?
He's going to be donating his boat and giving up his slip.
Oh, that's cool. Who's he donating it to? I'm curious.
He didn't say. He was going to start looking into that.
All right. Good for him then.
So what's involved in moving that boat out of that slip?
So I've done a little research. We haven't had to remove a vessel from the marina in my time, and I'm trying to do some research on when the last time that was done. My understanding is that if we were to remove the vessel, we would have to have a contract with a salvage company to remove the boat and then pay for the storage elsewhere. So it's not like we can just ask the Marine Police to impound the boat and remove it or anything like that.
Okay.
All right, so there's going to be a cost to the town for this donation?
No. So if we were to physically remove the boat, say, next week, and I'm just picking an arbitrary date right now, at that point there would be a cost to the town. So it would have to go through I'm still working on getting all the details on how that process would go and exactly what those costs would be to do so. I'm hoping that he'll be able to find someone to accept his boat and remove it quicker than it would take us to do that process.
Well, there are maritime regulations that are available on removing abandoned vessels.
That's correct. But once the vessel is quote unquote abandoned, and then if we take over and put a lien on it, then the town would then be responsible for the removal costs and the storage costs and whatnot.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, it sounds like a great place to have a summer camp.
For less than 10.
Throw out all the boats and have camp on the docks.
I may go squat in there.
Thank goodness we can have puddle jumpers again.
Come on the boat and come in the water anytime.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no further business, we will adjourn the meeting. It is 9:03.
So much for a quick meeting. Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Stay safe. Bye.
Oh man, I gotta figure out how to end the recording. There it is.